Thomas Lockley is back. If you guys aren't aware who Thomas Lockley is, he's the guy who essentially has written this whole fictional story about Yasuke, the protagonist of Assassin's Creed Shadows, which inspired Ubisoft to make him the protagonist of the game. He came out actually on a podcast by Lance E. Lee, podcast from Tokyo, and did an interview, and he is claiming in this interview that he had absolutely nothing to do with Ubisoft in regards to this game, which has been exposed as a flat-out lie, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't remember, not too long ago, he actually took down his Facebook where he made this status saying, "Thank you for the support over the years. Due to hate mail connected with Assassin's Creed game, which I have nothing to do and have no intention of playing, but many people seem to think I'm responsible for. I will be freezing this account. I hope not forever, but who knows." So this individual, Thomas Lockley right here, who claims to be a historian, he's written a 400-page fictional biography of Yasuke, basically making him into this legendary black samurai that has Japan pissed. We have this petition, over 100,000 signatures at this point in time, where they feel that it's historically inaccurate and disrespectful to their culture to be pushing this. They're asking for Ubisoft to cancel this game. We know it's not going to be canceled, but the backlash is there. The game has been getting dislike bombed on any gameplay trailer or anything that comes out about it. People are voicing their opinion, but Thomas Lockley has been busted in a fucking lie. He's saying that he's never worked with Ubisoft in regards to this game. Well, the proof's in the pudding. There's this actual episode right here called Yasuke, the First Samurai, Echoes of History. And it's a podcast by Ubisoft, the Assassin's Creed Shadows game coming up. And they're talking literally about the history of Yasuke in this. And they say that they are going to be talking to Matt Lewis and Thomas Lockley and examine the few surviving historical sources to reveal what we know about Yasuke, Japan's first African samurai. So this is an official Ubisoft podcast. He's saying that he had nothing to do with this game, that he's not going to be playing it. To me, it sounds like somebody lying to try to get the heat off their back. Again, keep in mind, this individual, Thomas Lockley, has been exposed for editing the Wikipedia page, Encyclopedia Britannica page of Yasuke to use his book that he wrote as an official source, cited, like a historically accurate source, which is proven it's not been. It's been proven many times that he's been lying about the future of Yasuke and basically all of the media that's been using it. That's why he's getting this weird, insane woke push, guys. Nobody gave a fuck about Yasuke in the past, but since 2019, when Lockley wrote this, it's just been boom. And as time progressed, as years go by, from 2019 to 2024 in the future, Yasuke's story is becoming this big thing that all these wokies are embellishing on, to the point where Ubisoft chose to keep him as the protagonist. So let's look at this. Let's look at this article. He's going to talk about the hate comments he's getting. He's going to spew some lies. Let's just listen to it.
Well, right now, I'm not quite sure. I've had some nasty comments on my Facebook page. I've decided to take down all my family photos from my Facebook page, my own stuff.
Real quick, he took down his family and personal stuff. If you're trying to target this guy and dox him or invade his private life, let me go ahead and disavow that. Do not attack this guy, all right? I'm not mad at Lockley himself. I'm not wanting harm at Thomas Lockley, and I would hope a lot of people, including the 100,000, aren't in it to go after him personally. We're calling out the lies, this whole embellishment on Yasuke that he's put that is disrespectful to Japanese history.
From Japanese, you've been getting these nasty comments, or would you rather not say?
Actually, to be honest with you, yes, a few from Japanese, though.
So he's talking about the comments that he's getting. He said a few of them are from Japanese people, which is rightfully so. I think they have every right to have backlash and be negative towards the lies that this guy is responsible for.
First time ever that I've had anything controversial from Japanese people about Yasuke. Yasuke is seen as a hero in Japan. And
bullshit. According to other people that have fact-checked Thomas Lockley, there's literally nothing about Yasuke that, if anything, he's just a background character. You know what I mean? He wasn't some kind of local legend. He was just a guy that there's only like very little about, and that people are just like, okay, cool, he was something, but he's not significant. I've seen so many people from Japan come and comment on this channel saying that this is wrong, that he's not a legend. If you're from Japan, guys, please comment down below and tell me, is he a legend? Is he seen as a hero in Japan? I want to know. Let's have a discussion down below. If you're a Japanese gamer and you know all about Yasuke and all this, let me know the truth about Yasuke down below.
Even in the 70s, he was a hero.
In the 70s, he was a hero? This is the first I've heard of anything about him being mentioned in the 70s. I've seen 2019 since Lockley wrote his book.
When he got bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say what some of these comments are, but they're not very nice. And but it's in English. Almost all of these comments or blog postings or massive amounts of stuff on YouTube. Some of them are not necessarily directed at me per se.
It's the idea.
It's the idea. That's it. And I've decided not to give them credence by watching. But I get reports from some people. I've got some beautiful messages.
So he gets reports from people about what's being said about him. Again, the personal attacks, the trying to invade his personal privacy, I'm not cool with, but he's not immune to criticism about what he's made up about Thomas Lockley. Let's get that straight here, all right?
On Instagram and things from people I don't know saying, you must be having a hard time at the moment, keep fighting the good fight, kind of thing. And I'm not fighting any fight.
You don't know
but it's lovely to have people just random strangers.
That's the majority. That's the majority of people, I think. Because
okay, so this host, Lance E. Lee, says that's the majority of people. I would beg to differ. The majority of people aren't these wokies that are wanting this narrative pushed. The majority of people are just like the people signing the petition that want Lockley to cut his lies out, to be honest about this. All right, and we're going to take a look at a blog post that's been researching Lockley for quite some time by a Japanese gentleman that calls out some of these lies. But the majority of gamers and the majority of people, it goes beyond this. People want to try to label it as a right-wing grift. People don't want this DEI checklist of, oh, let's put this guy and embellish him just because he's black. People don't want that, okay? Especially if Ubisoft is coming out claiming that this is supposed to be a fictional story, yet we're using a character that's being portrayed as a historical legend, which is not the fact.
Of the way we are conditioned as human beings to either fight or flight, we like to focus on the negative.
Well, the negative is the stuff that's being force-fed into our mouths. The diversity efforts that are being shoved into our mouth to check a checklist, a box on a checklist of, oh, a black protagonist. It's not the issue of racism that's being called. It's the fact that you guys are trying to push narratives of based on lies. That's the problem. If this wasn't a lie, nobody would be upset about it.
You know, they say entertainers or anything. When they're in an audience, it could be hundreds of thousands of people. The person they will remember is the guy that sat there and looked like he had a grimace or something.
Well, that's true. But guess who the people that are the most negative? Not the right-wing grifters. The grifters, the right-wingers, the people that listen to grums aren't the ones that are miserable. The ones that are miserable are the ones that are forcing consulting companies like Sweet Baby Inc. to come in and make everything politically correct for this small percentage of wokies that actually don't support anything. This modern audience that you guys are catering to, they don't buy the games. They don't watch the shows. That's why everything that is woke tanks, because the majority doesn't watch it, and the guys that it's catered for don't watch it either. I don't know why they keep trying to do this DEI stuff.
Everybody else could be like, everybody else could be happy.
Smile.
But there's always this one guy, and you'll focus on that. The same thing about the internet. We'll take that and we'll give energy to the one or two unpleasant comments, and we could have thousands of good comments. But
so they're downplaying outrage.
People won't. Intuitively, we know people don't want to hear about all the good news. but they would love to hear about that one guy that said, you were naughty for putting that in there.
Yeah.
Here's the one thing, though, is they're still avoiding the lies that Lockley has put out there. Why are people giving him a pass? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I've heard more people saying that it's lies than I've seen people defending him.
Really? Really? You know. But I wouldn't take it with that because most of those people too have a problem. It's about them.
Yeah. I think
It's
you're
not
It's
right.
about
about-
your.
This guy's really saying that people have a problem with the Yasuke criticism and that they're making it about them. Zero awareness. Look at how insane the Wokies act. They make everything about them. They can't even write Elden Ring DLC reviews without making it about how brave they are confronting Gamergate.
Your information is about them.
It's about
And they won't come out and say it in public because they know it wouldn't fare well for them.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Again, wouldn't fare well for them. You have over 100,000 signatures on here. The trailers for this game are getting dislike bombed. This game's probably going to get dislike bombed. I would say it's the opposite.
Say that in public. Let us know.
I mean, Thomas Lockley is the one who locked down his social media and has been hiding because the backlash is so big.
who you are.
Yep.
They won't do it.
Personally, I think that Yasuke was a man and he deserves to be given respect for what he did, which was
Okay, that's fair. The real stuff that he did, not the fucking lies that you've made up.
absolutely amazing. To come from the other side of the world in difficult circumstances that we're not exactly sure what the circumstances were.
See, he just said we're not sure what the circumstances were, but this guy was able to make a 400-page fictional autobiography about it. So he's like contradicting himself.
And to rise to the top of another country's culture and be at the side of the greatest ruler of the time at his death, fighting at his death, loyal to the end. It's an amazing story. And I think we should give somebody like that the credit they deserve. I don't know whether the game Assassin's Creed should have him as the main character or it should have somebody else as main character. Quite frankly, I don't care.
But you have no.
All right, this guy's saying he doesn't care whether he's the main character or somebody's not. Now is when he's downplaying Assassin's Creed, saying he has nothing to do with this. This is where the lie's at.
Nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it.
You receive
But
no royalties
don't
or
attack
anything.
Yasuke. No, it's nothing
Right.
to do. Though my
So he
book-
just said he sees no royalties. He has nothing to do with it. He's lying. Again, let me show you. He was part of this podcast, so he did have something to do with this. This isn't a reach. This isn't a stretch. This guy was literally a consultant on the fucking game. His input was used 110%.
book's starting to sell well again, which is
That's
nice.
good.
Yeah,
That's
that's
good.
nice.
So they
But-
can get some background on it.
Yeah, but don't attack Yasuke as a man. Let's remember this man for who he was and the great things that he did.
Thomas, I think that we're getting close.
Let's remember him for the great things he did and for the man he was. Well, again, who's the one making the lies? People are more upset about the historical inaccuracy, guys. We're not upset because of Lockley personally or Yasuke personally. We're not a whole bunch of right-wing racist grifters upset. We're upset about this being historically inaccurate. Well, Ubisoft didn't ever say this was supposed to be a real accurate history thing. This is supposed to be a video game. It's supposed to be fiction. Well, then make a fictional character. Don't use a character that there's a whole narrative written about them, trying to promote them as some legendary status because this guy is trying to profit off of it. He used his books as sources cited in the fucking Wikipedia and Encyclopedia Britannica. He literally edited so he could benefit off of it. He's been lying about it. He's gotten busted for it. And he's even lying, saying he has nothing to do with Ubisoft. Now, there's this blog that I found right here where he covers extensively. This is a Japanese tutor by the name of Naito. And he's been covering this extensively. Everything about Yasuke and everything about Thomas Lockley and calling it out, saying it's lies, everything like this. You see, Thomas Lockley had this rebuttal and Japan, saying, it seems to me that people who know nothing about Japanese history know nothing about Japan in most cases, and certainly know nothing about Japanese language and terminology they're talking about. Suddenly they know everything. So this is Lockley's response to the criticism that all these guys don't know shit and suddenly they know everything. Well, this guy says he's native Japanese and he's calling it out. So Thomas Lockley says, in a country embroiled in civil war with dozens of belligerent fiefdoms, there was no clear division between samurai and others until 1588, when Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Nobunaga's successor, began prohibiting the possession of weapons by all but the hereditary nobility. So then he said, as he mentioned, this guy Nairo says he agrees that the definition of samurai during the Sengoku period was ambiguous. However, Thomas Lockley goes on to say, being samurai then was defined by other means. Whether Yasuke was ever ceremoniously endowed with the rights, privileges, and responsibilities of a samurai, he was addressed as Tono, received a stipend, and carried arms. So this is about him having a house, sword, and everything like that. But this guy says, no, he's lying. Yasuke was not referred to as Tono in historical records. It was mentioned that some thought Nobunaga would make him a Tono, but it was merely a rumor. So this is based on the whole, there's no proof that he was, but there's also no proof that he wasn't. We can't prove it. You can't prove a negative, right? He goes on to say, a proper historian would conclude there's no historical evidence that Yasuke was called a samurai. His status was likely that of a page. But no, Lockley instead says there was no evidence he was called a samurai, but nobody else was called a samurai at that time. So let's just call him a samurai. So it's constantly a goalpost being moved, and it doesn't even matter. Like, everything that Lockley spews out of his mouth is some kind of weird, I guess, loophole, some kind of lie to benefit this narrative. And this whole blog right here is fantastic. I would love to go through this one by one, but it definitely is a lot of information to task in here. And you can see he's been talking about Lockley and covering it. So a good source right here. But what do you guys think? Thomas Lockley coming out from the shadows and basically, saying he had nothing to do with the game. And this interview actually came out June 17th. And it's just now making its rounds despite all this heat being put on him. This is my first time seeing it. And the fact that all this stuff, all this backlash, petitions happening, and he's basically been radio silent and lying that he hasn't been involved, to me shows a sign of omission. He has every bit of responsibility as part of this. Is he developing the game? No, but he has been in contact with Ubisoft, as shown as proof with this, and his story about Yasuke is the inspiration for the game. 110%. There's no way to hide that. So Thomas Lockley, I think you're full of it.